There's a character in Breaking Bad who spends 5 seasons lecturing Walter about morality while committing the exact same moral violations himself. He's a federal agent who breaks the law while maintaining the fiction that he's the good guy. He's a bully with a badge. His name is Hank Schrader, and his hypocrisy isn't accidental, it's structural. It's built into his entire worldview. So today we're asking, was Hank Schrader actually a hypocrite? And the answer is more complicated and more damning than you might think. Let me start with the moment everything changes. Season 5, Episode 8. Hank is sitting in Walt's bathroom reading Leaves of Grass, and then he sees it. The inscription from Gail Bodeker. The realization hits him like a physical blow. His brother-in-law is Heisenberg. But here's what's crucial. In that moment, Hank's investigation transforms. It stops being about justice. It becomes about Hank. Think about what this moment means psychologically. Hank didn't just miss the biggest case of his career, he missed it while living in the same house as the criminal. He ate breakfast with Heisenberg. He talked about the case with Heisenberg. He was outsmarted by Heisenberg. And Heisenberg was family. This isn't a professional failure. This is a narcissistic injury. Hank's ego is wounded in a way that will never fully heal. From this moment forward, Hank's entire investigation is driven by the need to redeem that wound. He needs to prove to himself and to Walter that he's smarter, that he's the one in control, that he's the victor. And this is where Hank's hypocrisy begins. Because from this moment forward, Hank will lecture Walter about being a criminal, about endangering his family, about the consequences of his choices. But Hank's investigation is no longer about justice. It's about Hank's ego. It's about Hank proving he's smarter than Walter. And that distinction matters because it means Hank is pursuing Walter for the exact same reason. Walter pursued his empire, ego. Both men are driven by pride. Both men need to win. Both men are willing to sacrifice anything to achieve victory. The only difference is that Hank has a badge to hide behind. Now, before we go any further, if you're interested in characters who are more complex than they appear, characters whose contradictions reveal something deeper about human nature, then subscribe. I'm building a community of people who refuse to accept simple narratives. Help me reach 1,000 subscribers by March, and let's explore these contradictions together. In Season 4, Episode 4, Hank is showing Walt Gale's lab notebook, and in this moment, Hank reveals his true motivation with stunning clarity.
I want to be the one to slap the handcuffs on him, that kind of shit.
Not, I want to bring him to justice. I want it to be the one. It's about Hank. It's about Hank's need to be the victor, to be the one who wins. He even compares himself to Popeye Doyle, the corrupt detective from The French Connection. And Walt points out something brilliant. Popeye Doyle doesn't actually catch the criminal in that film. He becomes so obsessed with his target that he shoots a fellow law enforcement officer by accident. He doesn't care because he's so focused on his goal. Walt is essentially predicting Hank's future. And Hank doesn't see it. He doesn't see that he's become the very thing he despises in Walter. A man so consumed by his own need for victory that he's willing to sacrifice anything to achieve it. But here's where it gets really interesting. In Season 5, Episode 10, Hank confesses to Marie why he can't go to the DEA with what he knows. He says, "The day I go in with this, it's the last day of my career." Think about what this means. Hank has been chasing Heisenberg for years, and now he realizes that Heisenberg is his own brother-in-law. If he goes to the DEA and admits this, he's finished. His career is over. He'll be humiliated. He'll be seen as incompetent. So instead of following proper procedure, instead of doing what a real law enforcement officer would do, Hank decides to pursue Walt on his own. He'll build an airtight case first, then go to the DEA, but this decision has consequences. By keeping it secret, by working alone, Hank breaks protocol. He endangers people. He manipulates Jesse into wearing a wire. He puts his family at risk. And all of this is motivated by one thing: protecting his career, protecting his ego, protecting his position. This is the core of Hank's hypocrisy. He operates under a double standard. When Walter breaks the law, it's a moral failing. When Hank breaks the law, it's a necessity. When Walter manipulates people, it's evil. When Hank manipulates people, it's investigation. The badge doesn't just give Hank authority, it gives him permission. Permission to do the things he condemns in others. And nowhere is this more apparent than in how Hank treats Jesse Pinkman. In Season 5, Episode 12, Hank attempts to convince Jesse to wear a wire and speak with Walt. Jesse is terrified. He knows that if Walt discovers the wire, Walt will kill him. And Hank knows this too, but Hank doesn't care. When Gomez expresses concern about the plan, Hank reveals his true priority with stunning callousness. He says to Gomez, "Pinkman gets killed. We get it all on tape." Think about that statement. Not, "I'll protect him," not, "I'll make sure he's safe." We get it all on tape. The evidence matters more than Jesse's life. The tape matters more than the person wearing it. Jesse isn't a person to Hank. He's a tool. He's a means to an end. He's expendable. But here's the thing that makes this so revealing. Hank judges Walter for treating Jesse as expendable. Hank is horrified by Walter's manipulation of Jesse. Hank sees himself as Jesse's protector, as the good guy who will save Jesse from Walter. But when it comes time to actually protect Jesse, when Hank has the power to do so, he sacrifices him without hesitation. He's willing to let Jesse die as long as he gets his evidence. He's willing to let Jesse be killed by the man Hank is supposedly protecting him from. Because Hank's priority isn't Jesse's safety. Hank's priority is Hank's victory. This is abuse of power. This is coercion. This is the behavior of a bully. And it's made worse by the fact that Hank has the authority of the DEA behind him. Jesse can't say no. Jesse can't refuse, because if he does, Hank will arrest him. Hank will use his badge to force Jesse into compliance. And Hank will do all of this while telling himself that he's the good guy, that he's pursuing justice, that he's protecting people. And then there's the final scene, Season 5, Episode 13. Hank and Gomez are ambushed in the desert. They're killed because Hank wanted to be the hero. Hank wanted to make the arrest himself. Hank wanted to be the one to slap the handcuffs on Walt. So instead of following proper procedure, instead of waiting for backup, instead of doing things by the book, Hank goes out into the desert with minimal support. And he dies for it. His pride kills him. His need to be the victor kills him. His hypocrisy kills him. And here's the thing that makes this so tragic and so perfect. Walter's pride kills him too. Walter's need to be the one in control. Walter's refusal to accept that he's lost. Walter's inability to let go of his empire. All of these things lead to Walter's downfall, but Walter at least admits it. In his final conversation with Skyler, Walter says, "I did it for me." He takes responsibility for his choices. He acknowledges his true motivations. Hank never does that. Hank dies still believing he's the good guy. Hank dies still believing his investigation was about justice. Hank dies with his hypocrisy intact. This is what separates Walter from Hank, not their actions. Their actions are remarkably similar. Both are willing to break the law. Both are willing to manipulate people. Both are willing to sacrifice people for their goals. Both are driven by ego and pride. But Walter eventually admits the truth about himself. Hank never does. Hank maintains the fiction to the very end. And that's the deepest hypocrisy of all. It's not just that Hank breaks the rules while lecturing others about the rules. It's that Hank breaks the rules while genuinely believing he's not breaking them. He's constructed a moral framework in which his actions are justified and Walter's actions are not. And he's so committed to this framework that he can't see the contradiction. The badge is the key to understanding Hank's hypocrisy. The badge gives Hank permission. The badge tells Hank that he's good. The badge protects Hank from accountability. When Walter breaks the law, there are consequences. When Hank breaks the law, there are none. When Walter manipulates people, he's condemned as a monster. When Hank manipulates people, he's praised as a hero. The system protects Hank in a way it never protects Walter. And Hank uses that protection to justify his behavior. He uses the badge as a moral shield. Now, I am not saying that Hank is as evil as Walter. Obviously, there was no limit to how far Walt would go. Hank is just better at telling himself stories about why his actions are justified. He's just better at using authority to silence dissent. He's just better at being a hypocrite. And that's the real tragedy of Hank Schrader. He could have been better. He could have admitted his true motivations. He could have acknowledged his hypocrisy. He could have chosen justice over his ego. But he didn't. He chose the badge. He chose the fiction. He chose to be a hypocrite. And that choice destroyed him just as surely as Walter's choices destroyed Walter. So when we look at Hank Schrader, we're not looking at a hero. We're looking at a man who used his authority to hide his hypocrisy. We're looking at a bully with a badge. We're looking at someone who broke the law while lecturing others about the law. Let me know if you agree with me in the comments below. See you in the next video.